Yo, this is Richie Mack, the Travel OG. I want to give a special shout out to Dante from Dontaesboxingnation, letting me put y'all up on game here in Thailand. Check this out.
What up, y'all? It's your boy Sheik Luch, LOXD Block. Listen, I need to shout out my homie Richie Mack, man, out there in Thailand. Yo, the bikini babes of the week. Richie Mack, you the Travel OG, King.
Sheik Luch tapping in. We got to get the lots for the golf tournament we having in Thailand. Pattaya City, to be exact.
Hi, I'm Katerina. You're watching Dontaesboxingnation.
David, congratulations. How would you describe this fight and the courage that was displayed by Chiron?
That was a great performance on my end, and a lot of courage by Chiron too, man. I respect him a lot, him and his team. He's a tough dude, and he came out here to give the brands a good fight too, so we both left it all out in the ring today, so thank you to everybody. Hey.
This is your 22nd stoppage, but this was one tough guy to try and get that stoppage before the towel came in from Steven.
It was tough, but the thing about me, I have so much condition, bro, that I'm gonna keep going until he eventually stops. That's what eventually happens. They tend to give up. You know, I know I don't got that one punch knockout power, but I'm gonna be ready to get you every single round.
Did he ever counter you and hurt you in this fight?
No, he didn't. He never hurt me. You know, he has good power, but he never hurt me.
So you've been the most avoided guy, and that's been a tremendous source of frustration. And now you put on this performance. Where do you think you are, and what are you looking at?
I mean, I think it's an easy question. I think everybody wants to see me against Canelo, right? So,
and you can't get into Canelo's mind, but what do you think his assessment would be after seeing you fight tonight?
I don't know. I don't really care what his assessment is, but you know they keep putting these contenders in front of me. You know, my last fight was a WBC title eliminator. That's why I'm here holding my belts. You know, they need to give me the opportunity. You know, I'll go through anybody, whoever they want me to go through.
Dontaesboxingnation, what's going on, guys? So those walls are really closing in on Canelo Alvarez now. Now, speaking of the walls closing in, he also mentioned Charlo too, but I'm saving that clip for an additional video because I'm gonna do a separate video on what he said about Charlo. Now, real quick, before I get into this, I wanna let you guys know what's going on. Now, I'm doing this video late, and I'm also gonna do a video, or I'm gonna try to do a video on the Gabe Rosado versus Munguia fight, because that was a hell of a fight. But I'm doing these videos late because this morning, you guys know I'm out here in Thailand, so it's morning for me whenever it's nighttime for you guys. So right after I watched the fights, I had to rush to the hospital to prepare for surgery that I'm doing tomorrow, a second surgery. Now, some of you guys may recall, I told you about 6 weeks ago that I had to do shoulder surgery for a rotator cuff injury. So I did the surgery, and about a week ago, like one of the only times that I've been riding on a motorbike, because now I drive cars out here. Before the first year I was here, I was enjoying riding the little motorbikes everywhere. But anyway, the one day I was on my motorbike, I ended up getting into an accident. And I didn't really hit the ground, but just me trying to hold the motorbike up as the bike was falling caused me to re-injure my shoulder, which the doctor told me now it's much worse. So now I gotta do surgery again. But the worst part of all is losing all my gains, because I've been out here getting swole. That's all I really do out here is work out. So this is really gonna suck because I'm not gonna be able to work out for at least a good 4 to 6 months. So I'm telling you this to let you know that I'm gonna try to do a couple videos before I go into surgery, because obviously I won't be doing any videos after surgery. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this news. David Benavidez, he just stopped, last minute replacement, Chiron Davis. Man, you got to give Davis a lot of credit, because not only did he take this fight on 2 weeks' notice, but he moved up in weight to fight the much bigger, stronger David Benavidez and did pretty good. But Benavidez, he did what he always does. He continues to come forward, and he just walks down his opponents till they either give up, like he said in the post-fight interview, or they get knocked out. He has an enormous amount of power. He has a huge frame for a super middleweight. Not to mention he has speed and he has decent boxing skills, which are all reasons why Canelo Alvarez did not want to fight him at 168, and he waited for David Benavidez to be stripped of his title so he could fight weaker champions in that division. You know, it's really crazy when you think about it, man. When you just look at the stuff that's going on in boxing, you have fighters that are mandatories that are refusing to even fight for a title, where the champion is pushing them to fight. But then in David Benavidez's situation, he's now Canelo's mandatory. He is the #1 contender for Canelo's WBC belt. And now Canelo Alvarez, he isn't saying anything about fighting this man. Now remember, Canelo's excuse for fighting Dayum was why? He says because it was his mandatory, because he had to fight him. But we all know that's not even true, because once again, when Canelo Alvarez was at 160, as soon as David Benavidez got stripped of the title, he actually contacted the WBC president and requested to fight Dayum. This was one of the reasons why Canelo Alvarez ended up having a rift with DAZN, because they felt it was such a mismatch. They did not want to host the fight originally. But then, of course, after, Canelo became a free agent, they really had no choice but to give him the fight that he wanted to cherry pick if they were going to do business with Canelo Alvarez. They had to give him the fight that he wanted. Now, just to show you guys how scandalous and corrupt the WBC is, did you guys know that Canelo, he never had to fight for the WBC belt? He's undisputed now, but he never had to fight for the WBC belt. You know why? Because when Canelo was about to fight against Callum Smith, he was fighting for Callum's belt. I believe it was the WBA. It was one of them. But he was fighting only for that belt, right? What happened was Mauricio Suleiman, the WBC president, he decided to just give Canelo Alvarez that belt. Or what he did was he said, I'm putting this belt on the line for this fight, Canelo versus Smith. So whoever wins that fight, you win an additional belt. It was pretty much a buy one, get free type of deal. But what makes the situation even more scandalous than that is why the WBC did this in the first place. They did this to secure Canelo's road to being undisputed at 168. Because see, if the WBC, if he didn't just hand Canelo the WBC belt, he would have been forced to have David Benavidez and Dayum fight for the vacant WBC belt, which would have obviously made it way more difficult to be undisputed if he would have had to fight David Benavidez instead of Avni Dayum, right? So now, once again, David is his mandatory. So is Canelo going to take this fight as quick as he took the Dayum fight? Man, so many boxers have come out left and right criticizing Canelo Alvarez to actually take a real fight. No one is looking at any of the fights that he won at 168 as real fights, because they weren't. A real fight would definitely be against a David Benavidez, a Jamal Charlo, a Demetrius Andrade, or a David Morrell, which I'm telling you guys right now, David Morrell beats Canelo hands down. And I can see your eyes tearing up as I say that right now, but that's a fact. He will beat Canelo Alvarez, and it probably wouldn't even be a difficult fight for him. But the thing is, Canelo Alvarez, he most likely will never fight someone like a David Morrell. David Morrell is the complete package. He's a southpaw, he has power, he has rhythm, slickness, he's a natural super middleweight. Even David Benavidez puts respect on David Morrell's name when he talks about him. So he's a problem at 168. That's why a lot of this stuff is getting really interesting at 168, because we already know Canelo has already vacated his belts twice to avoid his mandatory. The first time he did it is when he avoided Gennady Golovkin. Golovkin had been chasing Canelo for 2 years, and eventually it came to a point to where Canelo was forced to fight him. Canelo decided to vacate the belt. The second time Canelo vacated his belt was against Jamal Charlo. Actually, I'm forgetting. He vacated 3 belts. He also vacated the IBF belt when Sergey Derevyevchenko was his mandatory. So the question now is, will he break his own record and go for 4 vacates just to avoid David Benavidez? But then you have David Morrell, who's also closing in on a title shot. So where does Canelo go? Because there's almost not too many white C-level fighters for him to fight. Well, I'm sure Canelo, he can always find one, but he would be under tremendous pressure. With all these great fights available, David Benavidez, Jamal Charlo, Demetrius Andrade, Dimitri Bivol, or either Arthur Beterbiev. If he's not fighting one of those guys and he tries to look for some Joe Blow that ain't nobody heard of like he's been doing lately, he is going to receive some backlash. Or let me say, he's going to receive a lot more backlash because the walls are closing in. I truly believe his next opponent will most likely be Jamal Charlo because that seems to be the only fight that really makes sense. Or I shouldn't say the only fight, but that seems to be the fight that makes the most sense. If you are going to fight the safest, dangerous opponent, it would seem you would be fighting the guy who came off of his worst performance, and that's Jamal Charlo, right? That was the worst performance of his career. It made the Matt Korobov fight look like an impressive win. That's how bad it was. So it would make sense the way Canelo moves that he would actually take the Charlo fight next. I really want to see either one. But, you know, when you look at the size, when you look at the power of David Benavidez, Canelo has not been in the ring with a guy who possesses that kind of power since Gennady Golovkin. And he's purposely been avoiding fighters that have been fighting with that type of power. Well, it looks like Canelo, he may just be forced to take a real fight.
My name is Chris, and I'm all the way here from Anchorage, Alaska at ScalpCarolinas, and I'm here for my second treatment of SMP. Well, I was sitting at home one day and going over my Facebook page, and they have different, you know, like advertisements popping up, and I saw one for SMP. And I saw some pictures of some guys, you know, before and after, and I was looking at that, and it caught my attention. So I Googled it. SMP, nothing showed up in my area. So, I did a little more research, and all of a sudden, ScalpCarolinas popped up in the web browser. So I started watching his videos and seeing all the reaction from all the other people. We talked on the phone, we made appointments and everything. I sent him pictures, and he looked at them, and I was like, can you fix this? And, he pretty much said, no problem. My first session, he made me feel extremely comfortable. It was almost like I was talking to family. He started, and during the whole treatment, we talked and, about our families and our life, and, and things that he does and things that I do. And before I know it, the first session was over. When you see someone doing something that they love, as much as I see Enoch Glover love what he does, it shows in his work. I wouldn't point anyone in any other direction but here to North Carolina, ScalpCarolinas, to get this done.
All right, now check this out, guys. If you're looking to repair eczema scars, burns and bruises, dark spots and blemishes, then this right here is the perfect product for you guys. It's called Elo Diki Face and Body Oil. Athletes and top-ranking boxers, they're also using it after training to reduce swelling, inflammation, and to ease the pain. So get yours today. Go to elodiki.com, like them on Facebook, and follow them on Instagram.